Next News, breaking news.
It's a requirement now. That's a DSA leader saying about candidate loyalty tests. And then they went further. We might not have a president. Stop right there. They didn't pitch reform, they pitched demolition. Abolish the Senate, torch the court, crush capitalism, and wait until you hear the part about bills disappearing because profit disappears. Communism led to the murder of tens of millions. That's what Mike Johnson warned. And that's what hit me so hard because the DSA didn't hide behind mushy activist slogans here. They actually published the blueprint. Abolish ICE, end deportations, abolish the Senate, abolish the Supreme Court. Now you hear that list and you know exactly what they're smashing. Borders, checks, law, self-government. Well, these radicals rip up the republic. Bill Gates pushes digital ID tied to banking, healthcare, voting, and education. You see the combo? One faction wrecks the old order, the other locks us into the control grid that follows. You tracking with me here? And breaking now, tightening pressure on supply chains and near-record tungsten prices are pushing Washington to treat the critical mineral supply chain as a defense issue. Tungsten is a tungsten national security priority used in fighter jets, tanks, missiles, drones, and ammunition. Yet the United States has seen no U.S. commercial tungsten mining since 2015. Project Vault backs a $12 billion strategic stockpile alongside $30 billion domestic production and millions towards restarting U.S. tungsten production. Vault Strategic Mining, KNOX in Canada, and KNXFF in the United States is targeting historic tungsten assets in mining-friendly U.S. jurisdictions, including Nevada's Great Basin, a historically productive tungsten region with a Second World War defense-related exploration contract, approximately 10,000 feet drilled in a USGS estimate of roughly 168,000 tons of tungsten oxide. Reliable supply outside of China matters to the Pentagon. Make sure you check out the Next News Intel briefing that is linked below. So Bill Gates praised digital systems for health and voting and education access. Pair that with the Democratic Socialists of America saying candidates must back a platform that could leave us with no president, and you can feel the trap snapping shut. First they gut the Constitution, then the technocrats wire the cage. So let's get into the receipts. Canary Mission posting, the DSA leaders make it official. It's a requirement now for endorsed candidates to support the radical program and dismantle the U.S. government.
Actually something that we committed to at convention, having our endorsed candidates supporting the program. It's a requirement now. And so that'll be incorporated into our endorsement process.
It sounds so radical, like abolish the Senate, abolish the Supreme Court, like et cetera, but it's not. Like those are the things that need to happen.
So whenever people are like, oh my God, they want to get rid of the president, I was like, well, I don't know what we would call it in the future. We could call it the head honcho of whatever, like it's like we might not have a president.
Wow. So DSA insiders say it outright, backing the anti-constitution program is now mandatory. Next, the new platform gets uglier, from killing for-profit businesses to ending deportations and putting Congress over the courts. Wall Street apes. The Democratic Socialists unveiled their new platform ahead of the midterms. It's even crazier than a few weeks ago. Get rid of for-profit companies. No one will have many bills because there won't be for-profit companies. You can take days off of work because you won't have many bills because they want to end for-profit companies. Abolish ICE, end ICE deportations, end all deportations, abolish the Senate, Supreme Court, more wealth taxes on billionaires, expand the Congress they'll control, a new justice system they'll control. And they say Bernie Sanders is the only popular senator because he's a socialist. These people are communists. They want to destroy and bring down America.
All right, welcome back. The Democratic Socialists just unveiled a sweeping new policy agenda. It calls for a dramatic overhaul of all three branches of the government. They say, on the plus side, you'll probably never have to pay a bill again. Take a listen.
You're able to take a day off and not have to worry. And you don't have to have a job just to pay the bills because you don't have a lot of bills, right? Bills are no longer a thing because there's not for-profit businesses that are constantly trying to exploit you and trying to, put you into debt.
We wanted to lift up that demand very clearly and to state, abolish ICE, end ICE detention, end deportations, and punish the brutality of these federal agents.
Correspondent Madeline Rivera has all the details for us here in the D.C. newsroom. Hey, Maddie. Good afternoon, Jillian. Besides those things, the DSA also calls for defunding the Department of War, reparations, and wealth taxes. They argue capitalism hinders freedom and that our current political system is not true democracy.
Why do we have a Senate? Like a lot of people are going to see that and they'll be like, wait a second, why do I have a Senate? Like, what's so great about the Senate? I mean, I'm not sure about this, but I'm pretty sure the only popular senator is Bernie Sanders, and it's because he ran for president as a Democratic Socialist.
The DSA is pushing for an expansion of the House, which they argue is a more accurate representation of the population. And they want the Supreme Court to be replaced by a judiciary chosen by and subordinate to Congress. The new platform comes as the DSA hits 120,000 members, which they say is now the largest socialist organization in the country. The agenda will essentially serve as a rallying call as they try to build on the wins of left-wing candidates in recent primaries. Democrats are torn about how to tackle the rise of socialism within their party, but Senator Bernie Sanders says it's been a long time coming.
We are seeing a real movement of the American people who increasingly understand that we are living in a moment where never in our history have so few people, multi-billionaires, had so much economic and political power. And all across this country, we're seeing a profound disgust. People are standing up and saying that establishment politics and establishment policies are not working. We need change.
House Speaker Mike Johnson and other Republicans are sounding the alarm, framing communism as a real threat ahead of the midterms.
Let's just see what the average.
So it's not fringe talk. It's a full agenda, and Bernie Sanders is cheering parts of it on next. Lifelong Democrat and former Clinton staffer says these anti-American demands should be condemned by Democrat leaders. Former Clinton staffer Jamie Metzel.
So-called workers deserve more. The DSA's new platform focuses on shifting structural, political, and economic power away from corporations and into the hands of the working class. The platform outlining a fundamental rewrite of the U.S. framework to ensure every resident, regardless of status, has civil and political rights. On Tuesday, the Democratic Socialists of America dropping their new platform, which includes extending full voting rights to people with criminal convictions and non-citizens, replacing the Electoral College with a national popular vote for president, plus replacing the two-party system with a multi-party democracy, while also expanding the House and abolishing the Senate.
We just don't see the point of the Senate. Historically, it was meant to serve very wealthy people who owned a lot of land. And that's still a system that we have today, and it's something we would change.
The new platform comes as the socialist surge continues to sweep the nation. Multiple DSA candidates knocking off long-term establishment Democrats in recent state primaries. That includes Milot Quiros in Colorado, plus Claire Valdez and Daria-Liza Avila Chevalier in New York. Lifelong Democrat and former staffer in the Clinton administration, Jamie Metzel telling the National News Desk, Democratic Party leaders need to condemn the DSA and its associated candidates.
These are just absolutely unacceptable, disgraceful, anti-American views. We should all condemn them, especially Democratic leaders.
Metzel launching a petition to oppose Chevalier, who beat five-term incumbent Adriano Espaillat in New York's 13th congressional district primary, pointing to her public record, including two now deleted tweets from 2019, one of which reads in part, quote, "I forgot to get napkins, so I just wiped my hand on the American flag behind me."
And what I'd like to do is to have this petition put pressure on Democratic leaders to condemn people like Chevalier, like the woman in Colorado who essentially said that America had 9/11 coming.
When even the Clinton World Democrat calls this disgraceful, you know the rot is deep. Next, Andrea Schaefer lays out how the DSA is using purity tests and primary warfare to take over the Democrat Party from the inside. Well, that's a long post. Radical DSA transformation of a republic must be defeated. The American Republic stands at a crossroads. One of the most significant and underappreciated developments in recent American politics has been the steady rise of the DSA and its growing influence in the Democrat Party. They've moved from the fringes of the progressive left to become a powerful voice that's actively reshaping the Democrat Party from within. It's Marxist in its core, seeks a drastic reduction in military power of the United States, and on and on and on this post goes. But that's the play, pressure, purge, replace, repeat. Now compare that Marxist push with Trump, keeping it simple and direct on TikTok with his post that he made.
Declaration of Independence, which is a great honor. I keep hearing so much about TikTok and all of the influence they have and that how it's unfair and how it's this and that. But here's the only problem. I'm number one on TikTok. Can you believe it? I'm number one. Look at those numbers. Billions and billions of people are looking at Trump. And I keep hearing about the influence other people have. I don't know. How come I'm number one if they have so much influence? There's your number. So I think we have influence too. And I'm saying stop communism.
I love how he just dropped that in at the end. He publishes it on True Social. No doubt it went on TikTok. Drops that little zinger at the end. Speaker Mike Johnson warns the fight is no longer overseas, it's here at home, and the DSA platform proves it.
Happens, it's inevitable. Communism and this philosophy has led to the murder of tens of millions of innocent people in the 20th century alone. It is a nightmare. It is a trail to certain death, okay? And that's why we're speaking in such stark terms, because we need America to wake up. We're not even, look, 35 years ago, Republicans and Democrats in Congress, when I was coming up in, the Reagan years, they were fighting communism on a distant shore. Now it's here. But in Congress, they all agreed on that. They obviously knew that we had to fight communism. And so what they were doing here for domestic policy, that was foreign policy. Domestic policy, they were arguing over, marginal tax rates and the shades of regulation and how large the government should be. There wasn't a huge difference, a chasm between the two parties. Those days are gone. Right now, domestically, we are arguing, we are debating, we are fighting. The election will be over whether we're going to maintain our freedom in a constitutional republic, the greatest experiment in self-governance in the history of the world, the longest surviving constitution on the planet, the nation that everybody wants to emulate and everybody wants to come here. We have to seal our borders so they won't flood over them. We're the only nation in the world that has that distinction. We're the last great superpower. We are the greatest nation in the history of the world. We are fighting right now in Congress over whether we're going to maintain our status as a constitutional republic or we're going to trade that in, dismantle the foundations, and go down this dark road of death to communism. That is the question on the ballot this fall. Now, DSA published their platform. I hope you're all covering. I hope you're writing in depth about their platform. I read it out at an event a few weeks ago, and they've made an ad mocking me reading their platform.
So he says the battle line is freedom versus communism. He's pointing straight at the DSA. Next, House Republicans pick up the same warning with a patriotic answer to stars and stripes over the hammer and sickle.
We lose freedom here. There's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The stars and stripes cast the hammer and sickle into oblivion before, and we will do it again.
We'll do it again. That's from the House GOP publishing that. And here's another one. A DSA member, Emma Vigeland, says she doesn't care if the candidates she supports are secret Nazis as long as they vote with the DSA.
I've said this before. I don't really care if, say, like Bernie Sanders or AOC go home and they're a secret Nazi, but they go out and they vote for the right things. Like, we're talking about
you don't
politicians
care?
As I mean,
I don't know about that. I'm like, that's a. I think these are the lines that people are talking about. Some people care about that exact thing.
Wow. Next, the same mindset shows up on the ground in New York, where Mandami, an ally, calls eviction violence at an anti-landlord press event.
Our city is turning the corner on tenant power. When we organize, we win results. The Mamdani administration is emboldening us so that we no longer tolerate the violence of evictions as a matter of business as usual. My landlord owns dozens of buildings, but he is not a steward of the public trust. In fact, it is the opposite.
Masked up and all. Next, Democrat Josh Gottheimer draws a line saying the socialists aren't interested in solving problems.
I also am a democratic capitalist, and I think there's a new group of democratic socialists who are not common sense Democrats, who are not interested in getting things done. They're interested in throwing bombs, not actually solving problems.
Senator Eric Schmidt goes after another piece of the swamp, blasting Biden's former pardon attorney as a grifter with no credibility.
I was called here to talk about Mr. Blanche's nomination.
Yeah, I know that's what you thought
General.
you came here to talk about. But the reality is your credibility is gone. You can't come here and do the political bidding of the Biden administration. And then when you're called out on that and being fired, and thank God you're being fired. You know what I really think? I think you thought you came here and you're selling merch, by the way. Do we have the hoodies that are up for sale? You sell merch. Let's show the hoodies. I think you came here thinking that you were going to be ordained the high priestess of the resistance. That's what I think. That's why you're denying simple facts that you authored the memo commuting the sentences. Everyone knows that. And we have documents now from the White House that they use that memo as a PR stunt. And so the idea, you have no credibility to talk about Todd Blanche. You have none. You've come here.
I want to get to President's remarks here, and I also have this clip from Bill Gates. Jeez. Okay, here, let's get to this clip from President Trump. This is a throwback clip.
Some federal law prohibits the entry of communists and totalitarians into the United States. But my question is, what do we do with the ones that are already here that grew up in it? I think we have to pass a new law for them.
Yeah. Now we'll get to Bill Gates' remarks.
Well, we believe having the ability to save and transact is something that should be universal, and a lot of forms have adopted that goal. We won't be able to do that with traditional systems. That is, the cost of bank branches and paperwork is just too high. But fortunately, starting with countries like Kenya, and more recently with a robust system in places like India, we see that you can have digital financial inclusion. India is a great example. They did a lot of their own technology, which won't be possible for other countries. And so the role of the Gates Foundation as an advocate for those who don't have access today is to make sure there's technology and standards, including open source work that we're providing through the financial switch, which is called Mojaloop, and through the digital identity system, which is extremely valuable, not just for financial activities, but for health and voting and education, and that's called MOSIP.
Since there isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all solution, what is the role that you see the private sector playing in being able to collaborate with different governments to ensure that we move forward?
Well, once you have the digital money system, then there's all sorts of services and applications that can be built on top of that, whether it's helping with health or education or agriculture, giving people visibility into their financial status, giving them advice, should they take a loan, should they buy insurance, what makes sense. The phone becomes a connection for low cost interaction with those customers that doesn't require human activity that would be beyond the means of the people we're trying to get to.
So we might not have a president. That's what the DSA figure said, smiling through it. That lines the whole game. And I want you to sit with it for a second. They're not arguing over tax rates. They're not tweaking a program. They're telling you out loud that the American system itself has to go. The same operation made it a requirement now that endorsed candidates support this agenda, and that is the purity test for regime change. They stack the charges. Abolish ICE, deportations, the Senate, the Supreme Court, get rid of for-profit companies. Who says that in the United States of America unless they want to bury the republic? And Trump nailed it cold. Federal law prohibits the entry of communists and totalitarians. So what do we do with the ones that are already here? Exactly. He named the disease while Democrats kept dressing it up as progress. So Democrat leaders need to answer one question tonight. Do you reject this platform? Not with a cute press release, not with a dodge. I mean, name it and torch it. Because the DSA just stamped requirement now onto a program that strips borders, shreds checks and balances, and sneers at the presidency itself. Even Josh Gottheimer called these people socialists, not interested in getting things done. And former Clinton world voices called this absolutely unacceptable and anti-American. So don't tell us this is fringe smoke. We can see the fire. And thank God President Trump isn't tiptoeing around it. He said, stop communism, and it lands because it matches the evidence sitting right in front of us. You and I need to keep dragging this into the daylight every single time Democrats try to hide it under the word progressive. Expose every candidate, hammer every loyalty test, defeat every communist plank at the ballot box before these wreckers get anywhere near the keys. And I want to hand you the keys to the news. YouTube took them away from you when they stopped sending you notifications. I've read your comments, and that's why I set up this telephone number for you. And thousands of patriots are already taking advantage of it. Just text the words raw feed to 844-840-4963, and I'll send you one text message a night to make sure you have the keys to the truth.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now. You know out.